Good evening. We're so glad you could join us tonight for C3. We're excited to be able to connect with you in this way 3 different times throughout the week, providing devotions, providing information, providing opportunities for you to meet our ministry partners. And we want to add a new piece to the puzzle. We're going to start taking some time for you to be able to meet our staff. And I have a special guest I'm going to introduce you to here on our staff in just a second. I want to just remind you of a couple of announcements. Don't forget about communion on Wednesday nights at 6 in the sanctuary. You can come at 6 o'clock. We have a little liturgy that goes with the communion service. We invite you to sit and just kind of pray for a little bit until you feel led to come forward and receive communion. And one of our pastors will provide communion for you. And we have a group of different people that have offered to come in and play piano in the background as that's going on, which is an awesome opportunity to just kind of center and come together as followers of Christ here at Christ Church. Also, we have Back to School Blessing. It's right around the corner. We don't know what the schools are doing yet in some cases, but we do know what we're doing as a church. We're offering a Back to School Blessing. No matter whether you're going to be in person, hybrid, or online only, we want to invite you to sign up for Back to School Blessing either at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, or 8 o'clock. You can sign up at christumc.net/back to school. It's a great opportunity to come. All 3 hours will be exactly the same. Just come to be prayed over, to receive a gift, and to know that you are cared for. Even if you don't have anybody going back to school in your own family, come and support those who are. So we want to make sure to invite you to sign up for that as well. And as always, our chapel is open from 9 in the morning till 7 at night, Monday through Friday. So we want to invite you to come in and take some time to sit in the chapel and pray and just center yourself and allow God to speak to you there as well. We are excited about all the things we're able to do. We're looking forward to when we can come back to in-person worship, but we are blessed to be able to do online worship in the time that we're waiting to be able to come back to in-person worship, which brings me to our guest this evening. I have Pastor Sean Lewis with me tonight. Pastor Sean is a deacon in the United Methodist Church. You've seen him on the video, but you might have not made the connection to everything that he does. And I just wanted him to join me tonight so we could talk a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes or throughout the week to get ready to provide online worship, to provide C3, to provide all the different avenues that we use to do things digitally. Before we get to that, though, I just want to give Sean an opportunity to share a little bit about himself. Some of you may know him, some of you may not. He's been at Christ Church for a long time, in and out, off and on, for a variety of reasons. So Sean, just give us a little background of how you got here and where you are now with your family and stuff before we jump into the other.
Yes, thank you, Chris. So I've been at Christ Church for coming up on like 20 years now.
Wow.
So when I was in middle school, my family moved to Pittsburgh, and we'd really found ourselves at home in larger churches in the past. That was kind of the type of church that we really connected with and felt at home with. And so we looked for different churches in the area, and we moved into Upper St. Clair, and just right down the street we found Christ Church, and really pretty quickly we found ourselves at home here. All through middle school and high school, I was involved in choirs and youth groups. I was a chapel choir officer. I was youth group president my senior year, and both me and my sister were really pretty connected in all throughout our high school years. And so after I graduated, I went to Penn State, originally intending on majoring in kinesiology and pursuing physical therapy. But while I was there, I got involved in a campus ministry and felt a call to full-time ministry and to serving the church. And I wasn't really sure fully what that meant. At first, I thought that meant a more standard pastoral role like you and like Diane. So I kind of connected with, if some of you were a part of a church in the early 2000s, and you got to know Pastor John Shaver when he was here. He became one of my first mentors that kind of helped walk me through the ministry inquiry process and discovering kind of what that looks like. And we'll talk about this later, but as you see, I'm going to do a little bit of some of my behind the scenes work in front of the scenes now. But I got a chance to really start exploring what that call meant and what that call could look like. And so I was continuing to go to Penn State, and that's where I met my wife, Anna. She is a clinical social worker at Mercy Hospital. And we were both looking at what would come next. And we got engaged at Penn State and got married very shortly after graduating. And she started a social work degree at Pitt, and I started seminary at Pittsburgh Theological Seminary. We lived in East Liberty for a couple years while we were both in grad school, and it was during that time that I got a chance to really get into the practice of ministry. I did an internship here at Christ Church during my seminary, as part of my seminary education, and in that time I was working, kind of being supervised by Chris, and he kind of just said, okay, let's find some things for you to do and find some different types of ministry to explore. And one of those was filling out some of the different ways that we could use media and technology and video to connect with people in the congregation and to further the ways that we're communicating the gospel. And I just really attached to that, and I fell in love with the ways that God could use me to explore and to connect with people through things like graphics and media and interesting art and the ways that God can communicate through those new mediums. And so it was during that time I got a chance to really continue to explore the call, and I got a chance to look at what it would be like what it would mean to be a deacon in the United Methodist Church. I was very blessed to have, growing up, an incredible model of deacon ministry in Peggy Osborne and in Linda Williams, who were here at Christ Church for many, many years, serving and leading the young people, including me, through our church. And so when I was kind of still exploring what ministry would look like, I had that model in front of me, and I was able to kind of pursue after that, and I got connected with some other deacons in our conference and what that would look like. And so I pursued deacons ministry and deacons ordination because I knew I could. I knew I wanted to serve the church. I knew I was called to serve the church. I kind of figured out it wasn't necessarily preaching every Sunday, but through the diverse opportunities that the United Methodist Church has for church leadership and the ways that we can affirm calls to lead the church, I was able to be affirmed in the ways that I felt I could lead the church. And that was particularly in a little bit more behind the scenes work, in helping to craft our worship services and helping to create engaging ways of connecting with congregations and communities through things like video and media. And so I was able to, after graduating seminary, I was able to continue on staff part-time here. And then about 3 months later, I think it was a Tuesday, and you had called me, Chris, and said, so Dan is going to let me know tomorrow whether he is going to stay in his position, going to go part-time, or going to fully retire. Are you prepared to take whatever time is given up? And I kind of need to know immediately. And so I went from Tuesday kind of being prepared to continue in that part-time role to by Thursday I was full-time on staff as the director of media at that point, and kind of the roles evolved and the responsibilities grew, and I was commissioned as a deacon and then ordained as a deacon, and I'm now the creative arts pastor and working alongside you and Diane and the rest of the staff up until a number of months ago, crafting our in-person worship services, and as of a couple months ago, helping to create engaging online worship services.
Yeah, so when you first came on, I mean, it was really basic, when you first got here. I mean, you were doing slides, you were doing, helping run sound, helping run cameras, you were doing those kinds of things. And there was lots of things that you had a passion about that were beyond just doing slides. But that's what was needed, and that's what you did, and it was wonderful. And then as you started to work through the deacon process, like you mentioned, when we went through the process, we didn't have to do this, but when you went through the process, you had to come up with a project to do and present to the Board of Ordained Ministry so they could say, oh, you can do ministry of some sort. And the project that you did, I think, really lent itself to what we began to add into what we do. So we do these video mission minutes in church before COVID started, right? So we used to have in-person mission minutes. And we had a couple of those that lasted 15 or 16 minutes. So you ended up having to cut the sermon and cut songs and those kinds of things. And we were
I can remember specific services where you and the worship leader, while the mission minute's going on, you and the worship leader are standing next to her in the back as, okay, that song's out.
That's right.
Okay, I'll cut 5 minutes from my sermon.
Exactly. So we wanted to get the gist of what people were saying, but be able to control it a little bit better and be able to have the message be more clear. And that led to your deacon project. So tell them a little bit about your deacon project, and they'll know as you explain it how that fits into our worship services.
So what I wanted, video and media has this incredible power to tell stories. And in essence, when we evangelize, when we tell people about God, we're telling the story of what God has done in our life. And so I identified that we can use the medium of video, the medium of media, to equip people to tell their story. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a way that God has met you in your life and has showed his grace to you in incredible and powerful ways. And those stories have the power to work in other people's hearts. Those stories have the power to make a difference in the way that God is reaching out and communicating to other people. And so what I wanted to do was use videos, use media to equip people to tell their stories, to equip people to, not everyone is comfortable speaking in public. Not everyone is comfortable sharing some of the things that are personal to them. Because the way that God has spoken to your heart can be a very personal thing. It can mean the world to you, but it can also be very vulnerable for you to open up and to share those things. And oftentimes, the way that I can record videos is very conversational, very open, and it can be much more comfortable for someone to be able to tell their story in a way that in other settings they might not really feel comfortable opening up like that. And so I wanted to capture a number of stories of people in our church and the ways that God had worked in their life. You may remember seeing a story from Chuck Pryor and the way that God worked in his life and his son's life. I think Noah Manalo, one of our young men in our congregation, got a chance to share his story, and a couple others. And I really enjoyed connecting with the people of our church and equipping them to tell their story. And I think that things like video and media have really, really powerful ways that we can allow God to speak through us, just with a little help, with a little movement, and a little use of some modern technologies that we can allow God to use our stories, use the ways that God has worked in our lives to connect with people and open the world to God's grace.
Yeah, and you were so good at that when we were meeting pre-pandemic, and it added to the worship service, and we've been able to enhance what we were doing in the worship service. Then COVID-19 hit, and everything changed. We had to stop meeting in person. Everything went online. So now the means we have to talk to people is online, whether it be at C3, whether it be on a Sunday morning, whether they can watch it whenever they want to watch it. But now we're trying to not only bring a story to life, we're trying to bring an entire service to life throughout the week. So I thought it might be cool for people to have an idea of what a typical week is. Not a week where everything goes wrong and nothing works, but a typical week where everything runs smoothly.
That's not typical.
Yeah, well, we're going to go with it.
Okay.
And see what a typical week is. So just kind of give them an overview. Maybe we'll start with an overview of how we prepare the sermon and the liturgy stuff, and then we'll talk a little bit about the music stuff. Next.
Well, yeah. So I mean, yeah. Who would imagine? Like, God was preparing us to take on some things that we wouldn't necessarily have expected we needed to be prepared for. I don't know if you remember a meeting that you and I and Seth had. Maybe it would have been very early March, very late or later February, where I think I said, this probably isn't likely at all, but there's a not zero chance that we won't be able to meet in person on Easter. And this is the world that we've been living in, and the ways that God has asked us to respond.
And out of that, Seth searched the entire church to find me
exactly.
on Easter.
Yeah, but this is we've been called by God to continue living into what it means to be a church and what it means to gather our congregation for worship. Those gatherings look different, but the call and the direction from God to continue to be a worshiping body is still there. And so when we were trying to figure out, okay, what do our online worship services look like? What would be engaging? What would draw someone in and feed them with the nourishment and the Word of God and the opportunity to worship together that we believe God is leading us to draw people into. And so the schedule really the filming schedule starts right now on Tuesdays. I get a chance to, I'll cover Mondays. Really end up with
on the end of the week.
End the other week, but
right.
So Tuesdays we get a chance to record the prayers, the offering components, the call to worship, the affirmations of faith. We're really trying to. Most of the stuff is recorded by either you or Diane or I, or me, but we're also trying to, in the opportunity that we have, welcome and equip and bring others into to lead our worship services in this way. Like for instance, this week we're going to have the opportunity to have Dale Boyer, who normally on a Sunday morning would be in the choir and would be singing with the choir and might not have a chance to do some of the liturgy leadership. And but the other week she expressed, hey, if you need someone else, I'd love to be a part of that. And so I said, all right, you're doing it this week. So we have some of those things recorded on Tuesdays. And then usually Wednesdays, either I or our video media intern, Grant Schaufstall, who's Heather Schaufstall, her son, he's just come on board with us as a video media intern, which is very, very, very good timing to have that help there. But on Wednesdays, we're doing a lot of the editing and the preparation of what we recorded on Tuesdays. On Thursday mornings, we are usually recording the sermons. And on a good day, the sermon will take about, I would say about 45 minutes to set up, about 45 minutes to film, and then about maybe 2 to 3 hours to edit. And then there was a couple weeks when that hasn't gone exactly as planned, and the 20-minute sermon took 2.5 hours to film. So there's always the extra possibilities, but when it goes according to plan, we're usually able to get done with filming the sermon shortly after lunch, and then I work on editing the sermon on Thursday afternoons, bring everything together, and get the videos ready to export and ready to be reviewed and prepared. The final last-minute touches by a couple helpful proofers and very keen eyes on staff. And then we upload them on Fridays, and then we worship together on Sundays.
So, and I will say, as Sean mentioned before about doing the videos for people to tell their story, as somebody who preaches almost every week, or quite a bit, and preaches with Diane on a regular basis, Sean does outstanding job of making us feel comfortable, because preaching to a camera is completely different than preaching to a congregation. You know, I like making eye contact when I preach in the congregation, and it's awesome. When you preach to a camera, there is no eye contact. The only eye contact I get is from Sean on the other side of the camera, and it's unique. It's a new way to kind of look at things, and you have to make sure you're looking at the right place. And Sean makes it real comfortable. Those 2 to 3 hours of editing is what makes us look so good on Sunday mornings. So Sean does an excellent job. Grant does an excellent job of putting those sermons together. And then we have 2 different types of services with 2 different types of music. Mm-hmm. So tell us first about how we kind of record music for the traditional service.
Yeah, so most of that, what we already talked about recording, that's shared between both services.
Right.
And then I work with the different contemporary and traditional music leaders to plan out how we want to collect and form and create our music offerings for worship. For traditional worship, we've done a handful of different things. We have brought some small groups in to do recordings. We have gone back and identified some moving worship that we had recorded in years past. I did ask Samson if he would want me to pull some of the chapel choir recordings from when I was in chapel choir, and he politely declined. And but we have this blessing of again, God was preparing us for what we would have in front of us, and we have this blessing of some really beautiful and powerful recordings of worship that has happened in years past that we're able to bring in and to celebrate with again. We have some incredibly talented musicians that we are connected to, and that have willingly offered their gifts for us to celebrate and worship with. Just earlier today, we were able to record some music that one of them will be in this weekend's recording, and then we'll be able to use those a couple different times. Usually, traditional worship we kind of record in clusters, and then we, for kind of practical purposes, we bring someone or a group of people in, and we record some different selections of music, and then we're able to include those and use those across different times and different weeks.
And they probably, if they're really paying attention, they'll notice that the singers sometimes have the same clothes on
yes.
week to week to week. It's not because they wear the same thing week to week to week. It's because we've shot multiple weeks at one time.
Yeah, that I think in one of the recordings, we probably recorded maybe 18, 20 songs.
Right.
And we're very, very grateful for the worship leaders and for the those that were willing to come and to give of their time and give of their gifts to allow us to bless our worship services in that way.
And then, of course, we have contemporary, which is a completely different animal to traditional. Yep. So tell them a little bit about how we record contemporary worship.
So before this season of ministry in the life of our church, Thursday nights was worship practice. The band would come in and would come in on Thursday nights and spend a couple hours practicing through the songs and getting comfortable with the different songs that were going to be in worship that Sunday. And then on Sunday morning, they'd go through each one more time before worship. And so we still meet on Thursday nights, but what the Matt organizes and brings in different members of our worship band, and they practice a song, and then we'll record that song, and then they'll practice the next song, and then we'll record that song. We use 7 different camera angles. We have 7 different cameras that we have running all at the same time. And like I said, Grant Schofstall, our new video media intern, he's bringing some of his experience and his expertise to he's usually the mobile moving around camera that you get some of those really neat angles right up next to the worship leaders. And then we have Zach Miller, who's also just come on staff with us recently. He's a former youth just like me, and he is giving his gifts to really make some incredible mixes, and the band sounds, and I mean they sound great on their own, but he's bringing his gifts in to really create such an engaging and such a powerful movement in each song.
And he's doing that now for contemporary and traditional.
Yeah, and he was with us today to record our music. Before we got started streaming, I was giving Chris a little preview of what it was sounding like, and it sounds awesome. I'm really excited to be able to integrate that and use these recordings in our worship. They're so powerful and so moving. But we record, like I said, for contemporary worship, we record on 7 different cameras, and then that's when it kind of and then it flows into the next week, where on that usually Mondays, I'm gathering all those and bring them into our video editing software and mixing through and creating those different camera movements to go along with the song, and to really create engagement and create excitement and draw people into an attitude, into a place of worship. I think that just like I've heard it described as and compared to giant cathedrals that were built in the Middle Ages. They had these incredible stained glass windows and this incredible architecture that just surrounded you with awe. And it was meant to do that because it was meant to draw you into an attitude and draw you into a place of worship. And so just like they used the tools that they had access to at that time when those cathedrals were built, some of these lights and moving backgrounds and dynamic camera angles, those are the tools that we have access to now. Those are the tools that God has given us to create engagement, to create opportunities for us to feel ourselves pulled into an attitude of worship. I know for me that has been what has happened for even just mixing and just creating those. I can tell when, at least I know I feel it's going to be good because I'm going through the mixing, looking at this long list of 7 different camera angles, and I'm being pulled into worship while I'm doing that. And I hope that has been what this time has been for you too, and the ways that we've been able to create these opportunities and these ways of worshiping together. That I hope it has been as meaningful for you as it has been for me to prepare and to create and to equip our incredibly talented worship leaders and vocalists and band members and staff members, equip them to share their gifts and to lead worship for our congregation, even when worship has needed to look different. And we've been called to adapt, to create new ways of engaging in worship.
Sure.
I hope that it has been very meaningful for me to work on those areas, and I hope for our congregation it has been meaningful as well to worship in these new ways.
Sure. And now, don't get us wrong. Sean and I can't wait till we're back to in-person worship. But what this has shown us is that online presence needs to remain at the level that it is, because it's a way to reach people that might not ever walk into the doors of the church. So we want to keep that going even once we are able to come back to in-person worship. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to take a few minutes to give you an idea of what goes on behind the scenes. Not literally like seeing the equipment. We'll do that in another week coming up later on. But to give you an idea of what goes into helping those online worship services take place. And beyond just having the worship service take place, I hope you realize there's so many different ways you can use your gifts for ministry. You don't have to be the preacher. You don't necessarily even have to be the deacon or sound guy. You could be one of the people that come in and sing. You could be one of the people that come in and help with liturgy.
Hey, I'll give a plug. So one of the ways that I've really enjoyed equipping people to participate in our worship services is through the opening announcements, through creating ways that people across our congregation can help us open our times of worship together. And I would love to have, tomorrow morning, I would love to have a couple new people have sent their videos in. We have set up on the church website at christumc.net/video all the instructions, all the script of it, some helpful hints and tips to help you film yourself as you read the announcements, and the ways that you can send them back in. I've loved to, I hope you've enjoyed seeing new faces and new people from our congregation each week leading and opening our time of worship together. And if you haven't gotten a chance to send that in, I'd really encourage you, and I'd love to have you participate with that. And like I said, I would love to see some new videos uploaded when I sit down at my desk tomorrow morning.
And the more people that send those videos in, the less time you have to look at us.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if we don't have the videos, then we got to do the shooting. So again, there's so many things that happen, and we are blessed to have a staff that can help pull that all off. And there's so much more that we can share, and we'll do that in later episodes. But I just wanted to give you a feel of somebody who grew up here, went away to be a physical therapist who I could use personally right now, but has got a call of God on his heart, is using his gifts to be in ministry, and is making a difference not only to the people here, but to the people in the community and the people around the world. I mean, Palm Sunday, United Methodist Church picked up our contemporary service, and we had like 30,000 views. So you just never know what God's going to do wherever you are.
Well, it seems like every week I'm getting a couple new emails from other churches in our conference saying, "Hey, I could use some tips. Can we have a call sometime?"
Exactly. And you do a good job juggling that and still keeping doing what we do and helping them. And that's what it's all about. So ask yourself what gifts you have and how you could use them. You never know how God will use you. I hope worship is meaningful to you in the weeks to come. I hope this gave you a little insight of what goes on. And if you're just doing something during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, say a prayer, because all week long we're working on that worship service. Somebody somewhere is working on that worship service for that weekend. And not only are we working on it, but we're praying over it as we do it, so it's ready to go for the weekend and on Sunday mornings. So hope you enjoyed tonight's episode of C3. Hope you got to know Sean a little bit. Once we're back to in person, make sure you find Sean. Thank Sean for all the work that he's doing, and he'll take not only volunteers for the announcement videos, but volunteers to help with the 7 camera angles and all the fun stuff. It's a lot of fun, and you don't have to know it all because he'll teach you. And he's a super calm and laid back teacher. So thank you for joining us. Don't forget to join us on Friday for C3 at 8 in the morning. Hope everything's going well, and we will see you all in worship online this weekend. Have a great night.